Possibilities, a podcast for those who are ready to evolve into unstoppable, intuitive, and resilient entrepreneurial leaders. Every episode features successful business thought leaders who share their wisdom about insightful topics that help you amplify how you do business and serve yourself and others. Get comfortable and have fun as you listen to your host, Terry Wildemann, have lively conversation with her guest. Here's Terry. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Awaken the Possibilities. I'm your host, Terry Wildemann, and today is a show that I think is going to be quite memorable. My guest is a very dear friend. I was on his show a couple years ago, and now it's his turn to be on my show. And his energy is so dynamic and wonderful, and his insights are so valuable. And I look forward to the conversation today with Sam Liebowitz. He is known as the Conscious Consultant. He's a mentor, coach, speaker, healer, and serial entrepreneur. He's been in business since 1993 and has owned several businesses. His current ventures include the Conscious Consultant, a coaching and mentoring service which provides sensible, ethical, moral, and conscious ways to build careers and businesses. Talking Alternative Broadcasting and Internet radio station reaches over 120 countries and 300,000 listeners worldwide. That's just wonderful that you have this broadcasting network. And a Double Diamond Wellness, a healing center in the heart of Manhattan. One day I will get back to New York. I really want to see that. In his roles, Sam has inspired hundreds of people to live a life that is happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. He's lectured in several venues in New York City, including being a featured speaker at TEDx Upper West Side in 2016. And today's topic is all about the joys and the challenges in the journey of life. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you so much, Terry. A pleasure to be on your show. It's always nice to be on the other side of the microphone, as they say.
I know what you mean. I interview so many folks, and when I'm on the other side, it's like, okay, let's see where this is going to go. Exactly. And it is a lot of fun to be on the other side. It's a very different experience. It's a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
But then, on my show, anything goes. So it's, I just allow Spirit to bring the questions in and away we go. And speaking of allowing Spirit to bring the questions in, what do you mean by conscious consultant? Because some of the Awaken the Possibilities listeners may not really understand what a conscious consultant is all about.
So about 13, 14, 15 years ago or so, I was on this journey, but I like to say the universe kind of nudged me very gently down that path to get back onto my spiritual path. And I started taking all these healing seminars and workshops, not because I ever had any intention of becoming a healer, but for my own healing at the time, because I'd been through some very difficult times beforehand, and I could feel there was still a lot of healing to be done underneath. Mm-hmm. And then there was that one workshop where they teach you the method, you pair up and you work on each other. And I helped this woman release a lung condition that she had from when she was 6 years old.
Wow!
And it's like when that happened, I was like, oh, you mean like this isn't just for me? Like I can actually help people with this. And I'm like, what do I do with this? I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know anything about being a healer. And it just kind of came to me, well, I've been a business consultant, I've been a business coach and mentor. I'm still kind of a consultant. I'm just a different kind of consultant.
Yes.
So that's when the idea of the conscious consultant was born, where I work with people in a much more conscious manner from a different perspective. And I really look towards the underlying energetics of what's going on within a situation and help a person to shift their energy. And by shifting their energy, then they're shifting the situation that they're in.
Brilliant. Out of curiosity, what was the modality you were learning?
It was this very fascinating modality, very intuitive by this gentleman by the name of Dr. Cam Ewan, who is literally a rocket scientist, a chiropractor, a whole bunch of things. He was the martial arts technical advisor on the Kung Fu TV series. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
real heavy duty guy. And I actually still, I don't do that modality purely, but I still do it a little bit differently, and I call it my own thing now. I call it the neutrality point therapy, and it's a very fast, instant form of energetic healing. It's an amazing. I love doing it, and it's not like your typical lie on the table. I like have people stand up, and
Yeah.
it works very quickly, and it works on everything. I mean, I literally have worked with people from physical pains and ailments to psychological issues to business issues to anything.
And isn't it true that any healing that we do affects our businesses and our lives on every single level?
Like people ask me all the time, are you a life coach? Are you a business coach? And I'm like, I can't make those distinctions. I don't like calling myself a life coach. I don't like calling myself a
Yeah.
business coach because I'm a holistic coach. I'm a
Hmm.
holistic person where I look at everything going on in the person. So helping someone to shift something in their relationships may help them in their business or career, may help them,
Yes.
in their personal life, and vice versa. So I really don't make those distinctions because it's all part of one life.
Yes, it is. And it really is important when we do this kind of work to understand about integrating both sides of oneself, the practical and tactical stuff, which is represented by my books over here, and
Mm-hmm.
the emotional, the energetic, and the spiritual and the intuitive, which is represented by my angels over here. And when we integrate them both, oh wow, it is really a very, very powerful
Absolutely.
energy.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you've been in business since 1993.
Yeah. I've been around the block once or
You
twice.
have been around the block. Oh, I've been in business longer than you. I've been in business since I was 18. So.
Ooh. Well, technically, if you really want to get technical about it, when I was a kid in junior high school, I used to
Uh-huh.
buy the Sunday paper off the trucks on Saturday nights with a friend, and we'd go
There you
around to the bars
go.
in the neighborhood and
South.
charge an extra quarter and sell them, and I made a bunch of money then. So
Okay. So that's when you started business.
so my entrepreneurial underpinnings go back 50 years or
No,
something.
no, no, I get
Not that
it.
long, 40 some years.
There you go. And I find that entrepreneurs, people who are entrepreneurs, especially serial entrepreneurs, as you call yourself, we do end up going into one thing after another. And I do find that the serial entrepreneurs do start very young. I actually, and not that this is a tit for tat, but I started even younger than you because I had a little red flyer wagon. Remember the red wagons we had?
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
sure.
when I was a little one, I used to sell for pennies rides in my little red wagon.
That's great. That's great.
And I kept losing the pennies. Imagine that.
Some abundance there,
Mmm.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. It's like, oh, money blocks. Oh, how's this money slip through your fingers? Oh yeah. It started young. It's amazing how it all of that is mirrored in our adult lives. It's a lot of fun. So I'm curious, when you do work with businesses, can you share a story of one of your favorite experiences in working with a client,
Hmm.
doing the work that you do? Because, our topic today is about the joys and challenges in the journey of life. And entrepreneurs certainly have joys and challenges in so many different areas.
Right. There was one gentleman I worked with, and I worked with him on and off for many, many years. And he was originally up in New Jersey, and he had this opportunity to join a company with somebody who he knew from a prior venture, and he ended up going down to South Carolina, I believe it was, and became a call center manager. And his manager was driving him nuts. He just
Mm.
the things he did, the way he talked to the people underneath this client, it was really a very difficult situation for him. And so as we kind of worked through stuff, what it turned out was that this manager was actually like an extreme embodiment of what his dad was like.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of once we got to that root effort, and there was a lot of little tactical things and other stuff. I got him to start meditating, a bunch of stuff. But it was kind of like once I was able to get him to see for himself, and the way I work with clients, I tend to ask questions
Mm-hmm.
to get people to make their own realizations. Even though I can see it clearly, I don't want to give it to them. And so he kind of came to the resolution, well, yeah, like this just feels like my dad when I was a kid and stuff.
Mm,
And once that
nice.
happened, he was really able to shift his whole relationship with him. And then he stopped getting so frustrated and so upset with this guy. I mean, he still didn't like a lot of the things that he did, but he was able to come to it from a much calmer place. So he was better able to manage the whole situation and was actually
Nice.
able to thrive there. And then years later, he left that company, came back up to New Jersey, and was looking to start a new venture, and actually ended up partnering up with this guy because he was a good salesman, makes a
Ah,
lot of things happen. So even though their relationship was very, very rocky for a period of time, by being able to understand the dynamics that was underneath it, he was able to shift it, and actually it ended up serving him in many different ways.
how cool is that? That
Yeah.
is absolutely brilliant. So, one thing I know that you do, because I have been the recipient of it, is you have an amazing radio show.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious, how did you get into radio? And can you tell us all about your show?
Sure. So I always like to say I met a guy at a party. That's how it all got started because I have like no background in broadcasting, and it's not just a show. It's a whole network. There's
Yes,
several
it
other
is.
people doing shows on the network, and we've been growing a lot lately, constantly adding new shows, new hosts on the network. But what happened was a friend of mine was having a party in his apartment, and then another friend of mine brought this guy to the party, and it was a dear friend of mine. He said, "Sam, you got to talk to my friend Giorgio." I'm like, oh, "Okay." This guy had a shaved head. He seemed a little bit awkward in social settings, so okay, let me talk to him. I'm like, "Hey, Giorgio, I'm Sam." He's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "So what do you do?" And he has a bit of an Australian accent. And he's like, "Oh, I'm an acupuncturist." I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. I like know
Yeah.
lots of different healers. I don't know too many acupuncturists." And then the next breath he says, "But I've decided to become a Buddhist monk and I'm selling off all my worldly goods." And I was like, "Oh, that's different." I
Okay.
don't know too many people I could say that of, but all right. I was like, "Well, have you sold your practice yet?" And he goes, "No, not yet, but I'm talking to some people." And I thought, well, I know lots of practitioners. I know lots of business people. Maybe I could help you sell your business. He goes, "Oh, that would be great. Once I sell my business, I can take my vows and go into the monastery." I'm like, "Okay." And then he's talking a little bit more, and he says, "Oh, yeah, and I started this internet radio station." I'm like, "Wait a minute. This sounds a little familiar. Acupuncturist radio station? What's your name again?" And he says, "Giorgio Rapetti." And I was like, you're Giorgio Rapetti. I know who you are because my friend Larry Sharp has a show on your network, and he's told me about you, but he never put the two of us together. And now there we are talking to each other.
How
So
cool is that?
a week later, I'm in his office. He's telling me all about his business. And at the end of it, I kind of jokingly say, "Well, it's such a good deal. If I can't find someone to buy your business, I'll buy it myself." And we both kind of laugh because I'm not an acupuncturist. I don't know anything about that. But the internet radio station, that got me really excited.
Sure.
So I go home that night and talk to my wife, and I tell her the whole story. And she's like, "Oh, forget helping him to sell his business." I'm like, "Really?" And I was kind of crestfallen. She's like, "Yeah." She goes, "We may not have much money after our real estate debacle, but we may as well put what little bit we have into a business that's actually making money." And I'm like, "Oh,
There you
oh,
go.
oh, okay, yeah, what a great idea." And so we ended up taking over his business. We
Nice.
brought in an acupuncturist to take care of his clients. We made a general wellness center. I had people at the time doing everything from biofeedback to hand analysis to naturopathic medicine. And my wife is a psychotherapist, so she started her private practice there. But
Mm,
over the years, different practitioners come and went, and we've kind of consolidated down that now the wellness center is primarily my wife's psychotherapy practice,
mhm.
my coaching and healing practice, and I've really focused a lot on the internet radio station, which is talkradio.nyc.
And you really do awaken the possibilities on that radio show.
Thank
You
you.
have so many wonderful people who are on that show. And I know
Yeah.
when you interviewed me, and this was a few years ago,
Yeah.
it was a blast. We had so
Uh,
much fun.
yeah.
And I know you're doing a lot of good in the world. And
Thank you.
so, from a law of attraction perspective, I would love to hear your perspective on how all of this manifested. Were you even thinking of starting another business, or was it just the universe landing it in your lap? When you heard your friend talking about it, did you ever say in your mind, I would love to have my own network? I what When you deconstruct it and look backwards, how did this land in your lap?
I just like the universe put something in front of me, and I just say yes. I look over my life, and it's taken so many different twists and turns. I never could have planned it out. But the interesting thing is, after we took all this over and we were running it a few months, I was sitting one day in the living room looking out the window with my wife, and I was like, oh my God, we have our wellness center. And she's like, what do you mean? And I go, remember like 3, 4 years ago, we went to that business
Yeah.
conference and we met all these people talking about wellness centers and stuff. And we thought, oh, we should do our own wellness center one day. But we made it like this big, huge thing that we have to raise millions of dollars and buy a building and do all this stuff. And then so we just kind of forgot about it because it was just a little too much at the time. So we never thought of it. And now all of a sudden, there it is in our lap.
Yep.
So it didn't come the way we expected. And we had so detached from the idea that it came to us. So I,
Isn't that a wonderful thing? And isn't that what law of attraction really is to put the idea out there and then let go of control and allow the universe to bring it to us?
right, right. I mean, that's one of the things I always say. That's the allowing is the hardest part. So
Mhm.
sometimes we have to get to that point where we even completely forget about the original intention, so that then we're so not attached to it that then the universe finds a way to bring it to us.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I find that a lot of folks say to me, "Well, law of attraction doesn't work for me." And I'm like, "Well, it actually is because it's an energy that it works 24/7." But I think positive thoughts. I'm like, well, it's the iceberg effect. The Titanic was sunk by what was unseen.
Right.
So a lot of stuff, a lot of internal self-sabotage, self-sabotaging emotions can get in the way of you attracting what you want. So I'm curious, when you go into that place of allowing, what steps do you take to release attachment to what it is that you are bringing
Mm.
into you? Because that attachment piece can be really hard to release.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And I like to say a lot of people don't realize that the law of attraction is actually a very spiritual teaching. But they get
Mhm.
too hung up on the bling. But if you
Yes.
listen to Abraham, there was one recording that just it made everything perfectly clear for me. And it was Abraham said that the idea behind law of attraction is you just want to feel so good all the time that actually getting the thing doesn't even matter anymore. And
Right.
then I got it. It's not about the big house. It's not about the big car. It's not about having the perfect lover. It's not about getting all that stuff. All those things that we think we want are just excuses to keep us in the vortex, to keep us in that good feeling place. But
Mm.
actually, it's being in that good feeling place that is the goal. So when
Right.
I work with people on law of attraction, I always say, well, what do you want to feel? Not what is it that you want to have in your hands, not how many zeros you want in your bank,
Yes.
how many numbers you want in your bank account. It's
Yes.
the feeling you want to cultivate from that. And let's focus on the feeling and let the universe figure out how it's going to bring it to us. And
Yes.
I mean, for me, that's the way to get around the attachment is to stay focused on what it is, what is the ultimate goal from it. Well, I want to feel energized and lively and supported and this and that. And it's like that's what we need to focus on. What are those feelings we want to cultivate? Then we cultivate those feelings, and then the stuff just comes to us even without us having to
Yes.
necessarily be so specific about it.
And because those feelings are energy, and that vibrational energy can be really big or it can be really low. High vibrational energy is just so enrolling to what it is that we want, but it is about letting go of control. And I do want to mention to our Awaken the Possibilities audience that who Abraham is. I
Mm.
know who Abraham is, and a lot of our spiritual teachers, and a lot of our teachers who don't say that they're spiritual, but they're out there. They follow Abraham. So can you share,
Sure.
Sam, who Abraham is and how Abraham shares the message?
Sure. So if anyone's heard, and I'm sure most of your listeners have heard of the movie The Secret. So The Secret actually came about because this woman, her name is Esther Hicks, she is a channel, and
Mm-hmm.
she channels this. She calls them a collective of beings that just pick the name Abraham. And this started for her actually after her and her deceased husband Jerry had actually never even met Jane Roberts, but were looking to meet Jane Roberts, and they found out she had just passed away. And they had studied her material, and they worked with somebody who worked directly with Jane Roberts, and it was after that that Esther started to be a clear conscious channel. And so
She was shocked at first. She had a real hard time with it.
absolutely, yeah. She thought she was crazy, going crazy. She was possessed.
I know that drill.
Like Jerry was like, "Yeah, tell me more. Oh, let me ask you this. Let me ask you that." You know, he was the one who really drew it out of her. So
Yeah.
they do. I mean, she still does it, but they did cruises. You know, they would go around and speak in different
Mm-hmm.
places. They have tons of videos on YouTube.
Yes, they
Um,
do.
but Rhonda Byrne, who's the woman who produced The Secret, she got the idea because she was on one of Esther Hicks's cruises one time. And then she went around looking for all kinds of people to talk about law of attraction, which at the time no one really knew what law of attraction was. They were just
Right.
kind of making up as they go along. And in the original like director's cut version of the movie, there is a piece
There
at the
is.
beginning of Esther channeling Abraham, which
Yep.
when they mass marketed it, they felt it was too controversial, so they
Mm-hmm.
cut it out.
Right.
But actually, that whole everything that comes from The Secret actually all started with
With
Abraham.
Abraham. That's exactly right. And there are some of the videos are just fantastic that are on YouTube. So there's a lot of free information out there to
Tons.
help you shift from low vibrational energies to high vibrational energies just by listening to Abraham. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, Sam, for bringing Abraham front and center in Law of Attraction, because the people like Jack Canfield,
Mm,
Dr. Wayne Dyer, those are two
mhm.
examples of folks who listen to Abraham and have worked with Abraham.
Yep.
And I've actually been, and I'm sure you have in New York, I've been to several of the workshops.
Yes.
One of
Yes.
them was in Boston, and it is a riot to see her in
Yeah.
action.
Oh
It's
yeah.
really cool. It's a lot of fun. It
A lot
really,
of.
really is. And her workshops are standing room only.
Yep.
They sell out the moment they hit the website. Bam!
Yep.
Because the information is so spot on and so, as she says, tuned in, tapped in, turned on.
Done. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, like most people, she's doing things live stream. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a
Right.
lot of access. You don't have to travel to see her anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's tons of videos. I love Abraham. Matt Kahn is another one. He's a spiritual teacher I learned
Mm-hmm.
about 5, 6 years ago, and he's a very heart-centered spiritual teacher. So I love, and
Nice.
also puts out tons of videos on YouTube. I love his videos.
And that's, how do you spell that name?
Matt Kahn, Kahn.
Cage. I've not heard of Matt Kahn,
Not
so
heard of him at all.
no, I'm gonna
He
have
has
to look him up.
look him up. This is a slightly older video, but it's one of the original ones that got
Mm-hmm.
him really going. Is the Love Revolution. If you go to
Oh,
YouTube, type in the Love Revolution, get all about him. But
okay.
he's all about being heart centered, but in a very practical, kind of grounded way. And he's all about like consciousness and being more
Nice.
forgiving of ourselves and that how everything is really here to serve us. He's written some books lately. Whatever Arises, love that,
Nice.
and a couple of others. I can't remember all the titles, but I really
Okay.
like him too. And he's kind of spoiled me because he's so heart centered that when I listen to other spiritual teachers, I'm like, not enough heart
Hmm.
centered for me.
Got it. And speaking of books, I understand there's a book for you on the horizon.
Yes, yes. I'm finally coming out with my first book after a lot of support and some people really nagging me on to take. I write a weekly blog, which I've been writing for 4 or 5 years now, and people really love it. And so a few people have really been like, "Oh, this is really great. You should write a book. You should get this published in a book." So I'm working with an editor where we've trimmed things down, but it had like over 300 blog posts. We're trimming it down to
Nice.
200 and something. I forget what the number is. It's 7 times 18, whatever that number is.
Nice. Okay.
150 something. But it's called Everyday Awakening. Actually, you know what? You really have the honor. I haven't even announced it on my own show yet. So this is like the first
Yay!
place I'm actually announcing it.
Whoops,
Um,
because my camera.
they're in the final stages of editing, and I'm planning to launch end of September, beginning of October. I have to find a good launch date. I'm going to talk to a friend of mine who's an astrologer to pick a good date.
Very nice. Oh, Sam, I'm so happy for you because I know that whatever it is that you put out there is just absolutely brilliant. I've experienced it. So I hope the Awaken the Possibilities audience is front and center when it's time for you to launch the show. And actually, this show is probably, if you're saying the fall, this show is going to be right about the time that your book's going to be going out. So
Oh,
there we go.
wonderful,
Yes,
wonderful.
that's
Well,
right.
look
There we go.
for it on Amazon. Everyday Awakening.
Everyday Awakening by Sam Liebowitz. How fantastic is that? Well, Sam, I want to thank you so much for being here today. As always, chatting with you is just an absolute blast. It's always inspirational. I always leave our conversations with a big smile from ear to ear because you really are heart centered and you really do want to help the world and humanity in such a big way. And I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for being here on Awaken the Possibilities. And by the way, how can they get a hold of you? We know the
Thank
book is going to be on Amazon.
Book is going to be on Amazon, and my website is www.theconsciousconsultant.com. And if you go there, I may have a different audio at the time, but right now I have an audio up there to help you uncover your unconscious blocks to abundance. So if
Nice.
you click on the little banner on top and you sign up for my mailing list, you'll get a link to that free download. So a little gift for your
Brilliant.
audience.
Excellent. And to my Awaken the Possibilities audience, you know you can find out more about what I do on intuitiveleadership.com. Intuitive Leadership University offers lots of self-study courses to assist you to grow from the inside out so that you can lead with trust, honor, respect, integrity, loyalty, and love a fellow man. We offer coaching sessions and VIP sessions to assist you in your evolution. So until next time, I wish you so much success and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode. Visit our website at awakenthepossibilities.com to subscribe to listen and rate our podcast on your favorite platform, such as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Cashbox, and more. For events, business, mindset, and leadership coaching services and courses, visit our website at intuitiveleadership.com. We look forward to sharing more insightful episodes and wish you much success in your business and life.